Good day, right? Right. So across Africa, young people are navigating increasing pressure from unemployment, economic uncertainty, social media comparison, and global instability. So while determination is often seen as a personal trait, many young people struggle to stay focused, hopeful, and motivated when opportunities are limited and expectations are high. These challenges affect not only career pathways, but also identity, self-confidence, and mental well-being, creating a growing need for spaces that address both personal and structural realities. So the webinar, The Psychology of Determination, Building Drive and Purpose, even when circumstances are against you, responds to this need by reframing determination as a psychological capacity that can be developed. Rather than relying only on motivation, the session will explore how thoughts, emotions, attentions, and social environments shape persistence and purpose. Participants will be introduced to practical tools such as emotional regulation, cognitive reframing, and peer support, helping them navigate setbacks, manage pressure, and sustain forward movement in difficult contexts. All right. Organized by the Youth Alliance for Leadership and Development in Africa, that is YALDA, this webinar reflects the organization's commitment to empowering young people through leadership, learning, and psychosocial support. By bringing together mental health practitioners, youth development experts, and community leaders, this session will provide a supportive platform for reflection, learning, as well as connection. It aims to strengthen young people's resilience, sense of agency, and ability to pursue meaningful personal and professional growth despite challenging circumstances. At this time, we would like to recognize Olorato Ramukua, who is from Botswana, as the author of this webinar's concept notes. Right. So to begin this exciting webinar, I ask all of you in the audience to type in the chat your name and your country. Let's go. All right. And while we do so, might I go on to introduce our speakers? I will kindly ask you just to unmute a little bit, just to say hi as we go through your names, your positions, and your countries. Is that all right? Okay, so first up, we have Polycarp Okeyo, who is social scientist and psychological counselor from Kenya. Mr. Okeyo, are you around? All right. Next up, we have...
Hi.
All right, there she is. Miss Ngozi Ibe, are you available on call? Just a minute. Okay. Next up, we shall move on to introduce Alamin Abdelaziz Elias Agid, that is mental health researcher from Sudan. Right. Next up, we shall have Selma Ninamanu. I hope I'm pronouncing these names right. Please correct me as soon as possible if I'm not getting these right. That is, Selma is computer science and science student and digital focus advocate from Namibia. There she is. All right. Next up, we have Ajairu Yunus, multi-awards youth leader, Malaria Climate Link from Cameroon. And lastly, we have Nomahlubi Mbangamti, they, them, youth and social justice advocate, gender studies scholar from Lesotho. All right, that is all. These are all of our speakers for the day. I had asked them to perhaps unmute just to say hi before we begin, such that when we get into our questions, we are flowing smoothly. Are any one of our speakers in this afternoon, evening, morning?
Oh, thank you so much, Motero. This is Noma Hlubi from Lesotho. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Noma Hlubi. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Ngozi Ibe from Nigeria.
Great to meet you,
Happy to be
Ngozi.
here.
Awesome, awesome.
Hello, this is Ajairo Yunus from Cameroon. I'm excited to be among other change makers.
All right, all right. Okay. All right. I shall take it that these are our speakers for now, and as and when they do join, we shall continue. All right, let us quickly move along. So to our
from Kenya.
Oh, sorry about that. Please repeat.
Yeah, hi. Polycarpokeo from Kenya.
Nice to meet you, Polycarp. Thank you for joining in. All right. We shall begin. So, to our speakers, I'm going to be asking you a question, 3 questions rather. I'm going to kindly ask you to keep answering each of these questions just under a minute, just to start us off for the session. Or perhaps let me ask you all the 3 questions, right? And then each speaker can chip in within 3 minutes. Right? Each speaker will get 3 minutes just to chip in. So please try to keep each of your responses for the 3 questions. If you can note them down, rather, please try to keep them just a minute each, and then I'll be giving you 3 minutes. Is that all right? All right. So, as we begin, we'll pose the following guiding questions to our speakers. As we said, the discussion will focus on 3 core areas, moving from challenges to solution-oriented perspectives. So firstly, first question. In your view, what are the main psychological and social challenges that prevent young people from staying determined and focused when facing difficult circumstances? The second question, as you'd read, is what internal mindsets and external pressures make it hard for them to sustain motivation, confidence, and purpose? And then finally, how does fear of failure, lack of support, and uncertainty about the future undermine young people's drive and resilience? So each speaker may respond to all 3 questions within 3 minutes. Please focus on just key insights and practical examples. Please also switch on your camera when you're speaking and then turn it off once you're finished. So we may begin. Mr. Polycarp, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Let me start with the first question, where you asked about the main psychological and social challenges that affect young people from staying determined and focused while facing challenges. I'll start with the first, isolation. So when we talk about isolation, we have different factors that lead to this. We have the internal one and the external one. And feeling like you are fighting alone, there's no one to support you. And we've seen cases where we have these factors could be self-reliance, shallow support, and we've had people, especially young people, who are like, I've been support system to most people, but then when I have an issue, no one wants to support me. So that is also a challenge. And again, silence. Most young people tend to shy out from talking to to other people about their challenges. So they end up dying in isolation. Then we also have the social pressure. Like today, we have the internet, the technology, if I can call it technology, where the TikTok, among other things, Instagram, which brings a lot of pressure to the young people. So most young people will feel like, I've not made it. If this person is young, is 24 years old, and he's had one of the best weddings, is driving one of the latest cars, among other things, why not me? So the social pressure also leads to that. Then we have the survival mode, and we know that it is very hard to stay determined when you are trying to get through the day, and this leads to hopelessness. And we've seen young people being hopeless. And where I come from, there's a saying. Most of them will tell you, "I better live for a moment, but I live life to the fullest rather than staying for long and suffering." So they rather indulge in activities or things that will make them happy for a while, without suffering. And these are some of the challenges that we've seen in young people. In the second question about the internal mindsets and external pressure making it hard, the first one is the "I must do it alone" trap. And we've seen young people trying to make it by themselves without necessarily looking at their peer support, looking at the mentors, and also looking at the community at large. So this is a challenge. And then we also have the external chaos. So within this external chaos, we've seen the constant changes in the world, which is very, very rapid. And I gave a practical example about technology, which is growing very fast and making our youth to be, let me say, confused in a way, and also to be carried away by the pressure. So we've also seen the GNZs protest, and the GNZs are revolution, among other things, which makes it hard to feel like reaching a goal actually matters. Then if I can go to the third question, where you talked about fear. First one is fear of failure, which I'll mention as the breaks. So when someone is terrified of making a mistake, they stop moving entirely. So most young people fear making mistakes. Like, let me not do it, because if I do it, I'll make a mistake. That has been challenged. The second one is lack of support. And in support, we talk about the safety net. And maybe later on, we will be talking about the types of support from the community, from the peers, and also from
10
mentors.
seconds.
So really, yes. Hello.
Okay, please wrap it up in 30 more
Yeah,
seconds.
so when we talk about lack of support, all right. All right, thank you. So the third one is uncertainty about the future. And you see someone will like, why should I even struggle? And we've seen it most in the young people. Why should I struggle while I'm suffering now and the future is not guaranteed? So those are some of the setbacks and challenges that we've seen in young people, and dragging them and not making them to be optimistic and to stay afloat even in these challenging times. Thanks, and over to you.
All right. Thank you so much for that quick roundup. I loved how much you stuck to time in explaining just the key insights as we had asked you to, specifically speaking to issues of isolation, pressure, survival modes. I believe, like you've said, these are issues that we will unpack even as we move on in the conversation. All right. Next up, Miss Ngozi Ibe, your perspective on the matter. Ms. Ngozi, if you're in, kindly just switch on your camera, unmute, and then take us through your answers in just 3 minutes for the 3 questions, please. All right. I'm going to do one last call out, just 10 seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for having me. Okay, thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here. And okay, from the first question, you said, what are psychological challenges that many young people face today? And for me, like the one of the challenges many young people face today, I believe, is emotional overwhelm, overwhelm combined with comparison. So there's this emotional overwhelming, feelings young people have these days. This thing that, oh, everybody's getting it right, everybody is successful, music industry, video in film industry, everybody, like, they portray this perfect life that makes it look like you're backward, and then it tends to make young people to be emotionally, trying to compete with, a status quo. So they are constantly exposed to like curated success stories. They are, even when their real life is unfolding gradually, like because they see perfect, picture perfect poses, they see successful people all around. Like there's no real story, there's no real tangible story where, they see people who like really go through it in life and come out of it eventually. So there's this thing when it comes to, socially, many people lacks like safe environments also where they can express fear, confusion, or failure without judgment. So for me, I think one of the ways young people suffer these days is a psychological challenge. Suffer a psychological, it comes to emotional overwhelm and comparison. So when it comes to sustaining motivation and purpose, two things stand out for me. First is internal self-doubt and external expectations. So there's this internal thing where we struggle with being perfect. I will not start anything up if it's not perfect. If I don't yet have $1 million, then I'm not perfect. I'm not good. If I don't yet have a Mercedes Benz, then I've not started. If I don't yet have a house on the island, then I've not started. So that thing alone strains young people. And you see, every young person is afraid to even start. They're afraid to even dare because there are no real life stories to where they can see, oh, this person actually didn't have it all figured out before they started up. So fear of failure and uncertainty weakens, resilience, because failure is often seen as endpoint instead of a feedback. So that thing where we are afraid of putting ourselves out or putting our best foot forward, that's place where young people are emotionally strained because they see this celebrity and they're all perfect, and then they're asking themselves, why am I here? Am I a comb or am I a spoon? You hear young people say, am I a spoon? Am I a comb? These people are getting it all right and I'm here. So those are emotional
30 seconds.
strains that, okay, thank you. Okay, so those are things that, emotionally strain young people, like psychological challenge where they find it difficult to come out. They find it difficult to break out of that. So for me, I think that's one way to look at it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Miss Ngozi Ibe. I'm sorry I took away from your time and having to answer the third question, but I really liked how you kind of reiterated just what the previous speaker also spoke about on this constant fear of the young people, of fear being seen as an endpoint and not as feedback. I believe these are themes that we'll unpack even as we go on with our conversation. Next up, we have Alamin. Care to take us through these questions? Your 3 minutes starts now. Please unmute and let us see you right there as you take us through these questions. All right. I have it under authority, good authority, that Alamin is not in yet. We shall quickly move on to Selma. Selma, kindly unmute as well. Let us see your video and kindly take us through these 3 questions. What shall you have for us? Selma, are you in? We shall begin. I shall give her just about 10 seconds. All right, if she's not in, shall we quickly move on to Ajairu? Ajairu Yunus, you may unmute. Let us see your video and kindly answer to the 3 questions.
Hello, can you see me, please?
Yes, we can. Please go on.
Okay. Good afternoon from Cameroon. It's a pleasure to have me here. I'm really excited to be alongside other change makers. Now, to begin, I think I will just answer the questions randomly. I would like to start with, I think, the social challenges. This is something that is so unique to me and that has happened to a lot of people. I think young people are tired. Young people are tired of applying. Young people are tired of trying, get into systems that do not respond to their needs. They are tired of proving themselves. They are tired of seeing people who occupy or who are not qualified or occupy top ranking or administrative positions just because of connection. I think this is very common with some of us where you grow up with people you used to see, people who are less qualified, people who perform academically poor, people who do not give back to the community, but at the same time, again, you see them holding top ranking positions because of people you know or people they know. This is so common with all of us. Secondly, I think I would like to talk about the internal mindset. One thing I would say is, which is so common to all of us, is fear. The most difficult thing is to start. Everybody is scared of failing. What if I fail? What will people say? How will people look at it? So fear is one of the key challenges in starting something that is common to each and every one of us here. Lack of support too. People have a lot of ideas. They want to start something, but they need guidance. They need somebody to tell them, okay, you need to do this. You need to do it this number of times. This is how you do it. This is the time you are supposed to do it. So the lack of support and fear to fail is another challenge that is preventing young people to take a step. And lastly, I would like to talk about young people have this thing we call, I think, comparison anxiety, where you see somebody who is trying to compare his 1 chapter with someone else 10 chapters. This is very common in the civil society space today, where you see, when I share opportunities, I see young people who are so passionate about the civil society asking me to recommend them for programs. But they don't take into account, I think, the eligibility criteria. They don't take into account the experience, the expectations of the program. And when you don't recommend them, they get angry with you because they feel like if A is eligible, therefore they should be eligible too. So I think social media has gone a long way to shorten our expectations. We believe that success happens overnight. You don't take into account the late nights that people take, the sacrifices that people do to get to where they are. So I think this pressure that we have has shortened our focus. Thank you very much, and back to you.
All right, thank you very much for that quick insight. You did answer a few things and touch on a few questions here and there. Some common themes I see reoccurring here are the fear, the comparison, the lack of support, rather, that is and guidance. I'm very interested to hear what other speakers and just all of you guys in the chat might have to say about that. If you have any questions, please do write them down below. Remember to leave your name and your country as they're speaking, and you have something that you know, as a burning itch that you might want to address later on. Please leave it down there, and we shall get to it. And then lastly, can we have Nomahlubi Mbangamti to just take us through the questions?
Good evening, everyone. I don't know if I'm audible. My internet's been a bit shaky this evening, so I'll just have my camera on just for a second, just to say hello so that everybody sees my face. But with your permission, please, Madam Moderator, I'd like to turn my video off just because I'm struggling with my internet this evening.
Not a problem, not a problem. Whatever's comfortable for you. As we can just see you just to say hi and appreciate who we're talking to. But after that, please just feel free to have it off and then you can begin.
All right, thank you so much. To address the first question at risk of repetition, indeed, it seems that in the various countries and regions we are in Africa, it seems that comparison and social media pressure seems to be a common theme amongst all of us. So it has been spoken about extensively. So I will move on. There also seems to be a challenge of a gap between effort and opportunity. You know, many of our young people are hardworking and, you know, we're constantly studying and upskilling ourselves. But in terms of outcome, there's always delayed or blocked outcome in terms of structural realities such as unemployment and lack of access to resources. And, you know, over time, that gap can lead to psychological exhaustion. And, you know, in many of our cultures, we're told to be strong and keep going, but not necessarily taught how to process disappointment and burnout. That emotional suppression builds up and affects determination with time. And for question number 2, the internal mindset and external pressures that make it hard to sustain motivation. Okay, so internally, I think perfectionism plays a big role. A lot of our young people feel like if they can't succeed perfectly, you know, whatever that definition of perfectly looks like, usually it's determined by what success looks like on the internet, or what it looks like you know, from their neighbors, or, you know, if success doesn't happen immediately, then they feel like they've failed. You know, we also tend to tie our self-worth to productivity, and, you know, so when inevitably productivity isn't happening, then we start questioning our own values. And externally, hustle culture, family expectations, societal pressures, and economic pressures all tie into you know, difficulty when it comes to sustaining motivation. And when it comes to question number 3, how do fear of failure, lack of support, and uncertainty determine drive? I find that fear of failure, as the previous speakers have already said also, lead to feelings of helplessness. You know, it stops them from applying, from starting projects and taking risks, because the emotional cost of failing feels too high. Lack of support makes things very difficult also, you know, and uncertainty about the future, especially in our current global climate, with the wars and things happening, you know, climate change, the economic climate as well, inflation, it makes it very difficult to plan long term. So it's hard to sustain drive when you're not sure what the environment looks like 6 months from now, 5 years from now, and motivation needs a sense of stability. And yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Oh, right on time. Thank you, Nomahlubi, for that quick one. I really liked how we're acknowledging that success is subjective, right? Yet at the end of the day, these issues of comparison, of fear, these recurring themes that we keep talking about, they do creep in, and we've not really been taught to deal with the pressures, as according to some of the speakers' statement. I really hope that these are themes that we'll continue to unpack. And if there's any other themes that the viewers or the audience might have, please do comment down below, and we promise we will get to them. In any case, I'm going to now be asking each of our speakers individual questions. So please, all speakers, mute all speakers' videos off. Based on your experience, what practical strategies can help you and career uncertainty amid social pressures and career uncertainty? How can media, storytelling, and safe spaces support motivation, emotional processing, and long-term psychological growth? I'm going to give you just about 5 minutes just to take us through that. Your time starts now.
Hello, thank you for having me back. Can you see me, please?
Right, this is Mr. Ajayi.
Yeah, so I'm having the floor, right?
Okay. Shall I then go according to a question? I had mistakenly read Miss Ngozi's question first. So if you're going first, given your experience rather leading communities against malaria in resource-limited and climate-pressured areas, what practical strategies have you found most effective in maintaining determination, motivating young people, achieving community impact? How can other youth African youth apply these approaches to stay focused, purposeful, and resilient, even when facing difficult circumstances? I'm going to give you 5 minutes. You can unmute. We could see you if you'd like, and let us tackle that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I was supposed to be the first person. So, to go deeply, I think I want to say determination, it's very much personal. When the problem that you are trying to solve, I mean, determination is very easy when the problem you are trying to solve sounds very personal. You know, coming from a highly marginalized and indigenous community, I would like to say that our community is deeply affected with malaria. So malaria to us is not just a statistic. This is a daily reality where we see children miss school, parents spend the little income they get on accessing healthcare. And the worst of it is that climate change is making it worse because we have today constant rise in temperature and unpredictable rainfall, which is going a long way to make even places that were earlier considered safe zones at risk. So this is the daily reality of my community. But here are the few things that stood out for me. When I started Communities Against Malaria, I think I stopped, I did not wait for the perfect conditions. So when I started this initiative, I had the knowledge, I had the passion to work, I was available, but I did not have the resources. Neither did I have the right equipment. I did not have the necessary support that I needed or the mentorship. I just started small. It was just an idea with the team. So we started with malaria awareness, where we were doing awareness, we wrote advocacy text, visiting mosque, door market on market days to raise awareness. So to sell ourselves better, we had to volunteer with the local council, where we were actively working in cleaning the street, which was part of our objectives, to keep the street clean in fighting malaria. So our initiative was being welcomed. So along the line, we also succeeded to convince some young people to join our initiative. in helping support our goals. So within that same, I think within that same academic year, I can say that I was in master's too. So I had to pursue a research working on the malaria vaccine because I wanted to really support this initiative of malaria while doing advocacy. But I didn't have the money because the research was very costly. It was 2.3 million. So I had to drop out of the school, spend another 1.5 years just to look for finances. So along the line, while looking for the finances, I continued my advocacy on malaria. But within this same journey, I think I built resilience because I faced a lot of challenges. I felt like giving up. You know, being an initiative that was not legalized, to mobilize people, you needed authorization. So when we were reaching out to authorization, we were asked to give money and the like. At the same time, which we didn't have because we were not legalized, it was not a full funded program. At the same time, again, inviting people, you know, people had their expectations. You want to give out an information, somebody will ask you, is there food? Will I have transport reimbursement? Because people were stopping their activities to come and hear what we are telling them. At the same time, access to halls was a difficult journey. We faced a lot of challenges, I think, within this period of time, but yeah, we did not stop because at the moment in time, we felt like things were not moving. We had to give up. But we used our challenges as stepping stones. We had to be coming up, showing consistency. But there is one thing that I understood with people. People don't trust you at a particular time or in one moment. People needed time to understand. People needed time to build trust in you. People needed time to understand what you are trying to give them. So with time, while we continued our advocacy, both online and offline, 2 years later, I think we won 3 recognitions. People started showing support. They understood that, okay, I think this thing now is making sense. The awareness, the advocacy text, at least it's making sense because it's somebody from a community who is taking on initiative to champion from the same community. So I think we redefine success. How do we redefine success after all the recognitions and awards? It's not something I can say I'm so proud of, but redefining success to me here, I understood that success was when we see a grandmother or a parent retreating from a habit which was maybe misusing a mosquito net for farming, which was dangerous for the society. We saw people who were, interested, young people interested in the initiative and be like, how can we support? We want to be like you. We want to join the initiative. We saw people, sleeping under twisted mosquito net. Community leaders coming together to discuss on how they can actively contribute in fighting malaria. That was success to us. So along the line, I think I understood that consistency and discipline was what stood out for us because all the challenges that we faced, if we were not disciplined and consistent, kept on showing up in difficult challenges, I think we wouldn't have been where we are today. So I think for any young person who is having an idea to champion an initiative or maybe supporting something, you will not do it without facing challenges. So at the moment in time when you feel things are difficult, you have to understand that that is the moment that you are getting better and you might get somewhere which is more richer. So discipline and consistently showing up is the key to anything you want to achieve. Thank you very much, and back to you.
Oh, wow. That was very well said. Thank you so much, Ajay, for that. I really liked how you started off by highlighting that for you, Ajay, malaria is not just a statistic for those that are affected. And I think it'll shine a light for those of us in parts of Africa that might not be privy to such realities. And I also like how you've highlighted that you started small. You and your team started small. You provided clear steps on what you did, how you sold yourself within the community, using your challenges as stepping stones. I liked that. And also highlighting a recurring truth that even I in life have found to be true, that time, building relationships with anyone really, with anything really, it takes time. So thank you so much for your contribution, sir. Shall we quickly move on to Polycap? You'd remember that Polycap Okeo is social scientist and psychological counselor in Kenya. Right. So Polycap, as a social scientist and counselor, what practical steps can young people take to strengthen their emotional resilience and prioritize mental well-being even when resources are limited? What role can self-compassion, community support, and value alignment play in helping them navigate tough times and stay focused on their goals. Just in that same breath, I'll give you just your 5 minutes. They shall begin now. Please unmute and let us see you, and let us go through this topic.
Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to talk about this. Like I said, I work with the young people in my day-to-day life who face a lot of myriad of issues, and the youth they come from diverse groups, but they are young people who are facing quite a number of challenges. So to answer your question, how do we strengthen resilience on a budget focus? And I'm going to talk about the three most important pillars. One of them is self-compassion. I normally tell young people, self-love, love yourself first, treat yourself with kindness. Nobody will love you more than you love yourself. If you hate yourself, the society will hate you and everyone else will hate you. Love yourself, treat yourself with kindness, and that will prevent burnout when things get tough, because things will eventually get tough. I mean, today you might feel better, the next time it will get worse and all that. But if you understand yourself, if you love yourself, if you treat yourself with respect and love, then you are likely to withstand or to get out of this burnout without necessarily feeling hopeless. Next one is about community. We cannot do it alone. We cannot survive alone. So I normally encourage young people to lean on friends and local networks, because most young people talk about friends in quotes, people who tend to be friends, but in real sense, they are not friends. So identify your strength, identify your friends. It's called self-awareness. Once you understand yourself and the people who are around you, people surround you, then you'll be able to lean on those local networks that are likely to support you holistically. Then shared burden are lightened, and support doesn't have to cost money. Well, you realize that within the young people that we work with, we have the support groups. So within these various support groups, most of them face common challenges. So during the support groups, they are able to share these challenges and come up with amicable solutions to these issues. So they will not feel like they're the only people struggling with these particular issues. So yeah, we encourage them to have this support system and ensure that they don't walk alone. Then values. I tell young people to know what matters to them and keep themselves focused on their goals. That is very, very important, because even during crisis, they'll be able to stay afloat and remain focused and ensure that they achieve these goals without necessarily having these worries. So most importantly is I tell young people to start small with free habits. And when I talk about free habits, it means like just reading. You can have, the novels and start reading things that can be able to bring positivity in your mind. Watch things that bring positivity to your life. At times, social media makes us vulnerable. It makes us hopeless, and it makes us even confused. So choose what you read, choose what you watch, and choose what you engage in, and choose the people to also interact with, because there are people that if you interact with, they'll bring negativity and not positivity. Then have clear boundaries. If it's a no, it's a no. If it's a yes, it's a yes. That really helps young people to remain focused and even to stay rooted in their goals. Let them also refrain from obstacles. Yeah, there are sometimes I tell young people that there are things that we just bring to ourselves. Like if you are going to a supermarket to maybe get yourself something, then along the way you meet young people having drinks, and then they call you. I mean, you have the right to say no, but then the moment you divert to this particular place and enjoy them in the drinking spree, then you already divert your mind in something else, and later on the consequences will be totally different. So I tell them, try to be focused and abstain or refrain from the obstacles. Yeah, so in short, fear makes young people freeze, and no support makes them feel vulnerable and lonely. Uncertainty makes them lose purpose. So we need the community, we need the peers, the peer support, and we also need you as yourself to ensure that you have a meeting with yourself, a self-awareness, understand what makes you happy, what makes you sad, and what also makes you land into obstacles. So once you understand these, then you are good to go. Yeah, thanks, and over to you.
Right on time. Thank you so much, Polycap, for that quick insight. I love how everything that you've mentioned here really was supposed to cater to a resource limit, but essentially the strategies you've given us are free of charge. It is free to love yourself. You know, it is free to focus. It is free to start small. It is really free to refrain from those obstacles, like you're saying. I'm not necessarily engaging in activities that might bring trouble upon you. You know, these things seem like we're speaking, but these are actionable strategies that I believe even you as the audience there can take something home, you know. Please might you be reminded that please write your questions in the chat, include your name and country. Even as we go on with our speakers, we will have an audience Q&A just to round up a few things. We shall quickly move on. Noma Hlubi, please engage us. So Noma Hlubi, drawing from your work as a gender justice advocate and researcher, what strategies have you seen or implemented that help young people navigate structural inequalities, digital pressures, like we might mentioned, and identity challenges while maintaining drive and purpose? How can African youth build collective resilience, social agency, and psychological determination in contexts marked by exclusion and economic uncertainty? I hope that is clear. You can unmute. You did say you'd prefer to have your video off, so let us hear it. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the question, Mateo. You know, at the risk of sounding like a self-help book, you know, I think one of the most important things that we must say honestly to African youth is this: you know, you're not unmotivated. You're often navigating systems that are unequal, exclusionary, and, to be frank, exhausting. Structural inequality, unemployment, digital comparison culture. So the first step in building determination is in the problem. So it's not always a lack of drive on our part or on young people's part, but it's sometimes structural constraints. So one of the strategies I tend to implement is that I've seen make a difference is encouraging young people to separate their identity and their feeling of self-worth from economic output. In many of our contexts, if you're unemployed or struggling financially, you're made to feel like you failed, you know, but employment status is not the same as worth. When self-worth collapses, then what happens? Determination collapses with it. Rebuilding drive essentially requires reclaiming success outside of the confines of capitalism, because we do not have the capital muscle. So we need to find other ways. Like one of the previous speakers said, success is personal. So find your own personal definition of success. So things I like talking about is building hobbies that are outside of traditional workspaces. It could be, you know, playing a new sport, doing art, storytelling, etc., and also learning a new skill. It could be, I've seen that the young people have taken to crocheting, which is really cool. You could learn how to code, and there are lots of free resources on the internet. You know, coding, there's a resource called She Codes, not sponsored, not affiliated, not working for this organization in any way. Even being on this webinar, this is where you could gain invaluable skills. And second strategy, building collective resilience. This is a theme that's going to keep coming up, you know, with I'm sensing with all of the speakers, because this is this is who we are as Africans. If I may say, thinking about the philosophy of Ubuntu, I am because we are, so a critical shift has to be made, to move from hustle culture, isolated hustle culture specifically, to collective resilience. Because of our long history of colonization and coloniality, we have internalized and have socialized the idea that success must be individual. But in our contexts, which are marked by exclusion, resilience can only be communal. So when we start to pivot from defining success by X amounts of dollars in your personal bank account, and as something to be attained in isolation, it creates opportunity to be more creative, to build collective resilience. And this could be in the form of, as Polycap said, peer groups, friends. That's how you deal with mental crises. Mentorship circles to open up new opportunities to one another. Collaborative learning spaces in your area, such as youth hubs, shared resources. I'll make an example of let's take South Africa as an example. South Africa has a long history of colonization, like the rest of Africa, and apartheid. During apartheid, the Black women were excluded from economic activities as well as traditional banking systems, and they created this new way of investing together as a collective, and they created this wonderful societies called stokvels to help improve their economic systems. So this is how, and just one example of community building or building as a collective. So a third strategy, thinking about how to regulate digital exposure. You have to be intentional about what you're consuming on the internet. So think about, a way to not get lost in the algorithm would be putting time boundaries. I'm not going to spend more than an hour a day scrolling on TikTok. You could curate your feeds. I know it's difficult to curate a feed just because we're fed content by the algorithm, but being intentional by actually searching for educational content is helpful, because that's how you start getting information from say if you're a researcher, other researchers, if you're a marketer, other marketers, and reduces the pressure we're often exposed to. Somebody mentioned a 24-year-old who's successful and living an extraordinarily wealthy life. Pardon? 30 seconds. Oh, thank you. Okay. Let me move on to the last one. So even in constrained systems, psychological agency matters. Agency does not mean denying structural barriers. It means asking, within my current constraints, what is within my control? It could be skill building, networking, advocacy, volunteering, or community organizing. So small acts of forward movement to protect one's hope. Thank you, Mateo.
All right, thank you so much for that. I loved the closing statement, actually. Small acts of movement. Did you say small acts of movements of moving forward in hope? Did I get that right?
Yes, small acts of forward movement protect hope.
Oh wow, that is a lovely piece. I think I'm gonna just write that up and have it somewhere to remember, because that is so beautiful. Thank you so much for that. I loved how we're stressing this collective resilience. Two heads are better than one. A house divided cannot stand. Those sayings are not just sayings, because really outside of ourselves, we have community. I loved that highlight of Ubuntu. I am because you are. A huge part of how we're really going to get out of a lot of the things that we face. We can really owe it to community. I also loved how we touched on redefining what success is for our individual selves, especially with all these exposures that we have. And the doom scrollers, you guys were called out as well. Regulate your digital exposure, right? Okay, we're going to quickly move on. To our last but one speaker, Miss Ngozi Ibe. Just a reminder, she is health and wellness wordsmith, mental health advocate, journalist, and content creator from Nigeria. So, Miss Ngozi, based on your experience as a mental health advocate and content creator, rather, what practical strategies can help young people build determination and resilience amid social pressures and career uncertainty? How can media, storytelling, and safe spaces support motivation, emotional processing, and long-term psychological growth? Your 5 minutes starts now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, Moto. And so I want to stay without the camera this time so that I can, so that I won't be
Sure, not
camera
a
shy.
problem. Not a problem.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, so from my experience as a mental health advocate and a content creator, you know, one trait people, one thing I know is there are skills that can be intentionally built, especially in a world where young people face constant comparison, social media pressure, uncertainties about the future. This is one thing we have been saying throughout. Everybody has been like re-emphasizing almost the same thing, the same thing. So first of, young people must learn self-awareness. It's imperative that we become self-aware. We know ourselves, because there's a saying that says there's a saying that goes, charity begins at home. Like, it has to start with you. It has to start with me. The change I want to see has to start with me. So I have to love myself, like Polycarp said. So self-awareness is very important. Like, we must learn to start checking up on ourselves, or checking up on our emotion, reflecting on, okay, how was I able to do this? How did I do this? We must start as Africans. We must start writing our own stories, start telling our own stories. We must start journaling. We must start keeping records of our life, keeping records of our achievements, no matter how small, no matter what we think, like, oh, this is too small. We must celebrate even our small wins. So this is one thing we encourage ourselves, we tell ourselves, we must encourage even small wins. So secondly, we must also redefine what failure is. So, because I've not had that house on the island, or driven that Benz, just like the last speaker said, Norma, you know, we must redefine what failure is. And how do we redefine this, what failure? We start by, telling our own stories, sharing stories of resilience, not just stories of success, not just stories of, oh, this person is a billionaire, this person just made it, or this person is a big person. But we must start telling the stories of where, okay, there was a time where I struggled, and I got to learn. I got this feedback. There was a time I failed at this. So we must share what failure is. We must share the side of failure where it's not negative but positive. The positive feedback of failure is, oh, I did this and it didn't work this way. So it's a good thing now that I know that it doesn't work this way. So I can tell others, oh, you don't have to do it like that. It might not work, but you can try. This is my experience. So sharing those real life journeys, real life stories is going to set us apart. And then thirdly, young people need a structured safe space, a structured safe space. You know, we started this thing where we have a safe space every year on the 10th of October to mark World Mental Health Day, where young people come together. We say, oh, okay, we say no to drugs. We say, oh, we no more this. We say, oh, yes, we can build a life. We can build a career. We come together, we say, how is your emotional health? So we must put in place that our emotional health is very important for success. Our emotional health is something we must check in every time. We have young people committing suicide. We have young people going mad. We have young people reclining to alcohol. We have young people reclining to drug addiction. So we must build safe spaces where we say, oh, it's okay, you were down today, but you're going to be up tomorrow. So keep going. Why am I saying this? Is because oftentimes, no matter how successful we might be, we get to a point in our life where everything comes like, what's happening? It's like everything you have built is falling apart. So if you have that one person you can call and say, oh, I need your 8 minutes. Oh, I need your 3 a.m. thoughts. Oh, I need your 5 a.m., just the two of us talking about life. We need those safe spaces. Okay, there's this book club that we have created by a friend of mine, Becoming Better, Clubhouse. So in that clubhouse, we share, we talk about books, we read books, we talk about what we're experiencing, how what we're reading is aligning with our experiences. So
30 more seconds.
Okay, so small safe spaces help us to encourage one another, help us to push one another and say, okay, it's time to get up. You can do it. I believe in you. So the success is not always going to be sweet, but because we know it's not always going to be sweet, we have the one person that we can turn to and say, oh, I need your help. I need your support. I think I'm falling in. And then one way social media can help, one final way a community can help us is we must begin to share our stories on social media platforms. We must begin storytelling. We must go back to storytelling. Thank you very much. Thank you, but I want to say more, but thank you very much. I hope that.
I'm so sorry about that, but thank you so much for your input. I really like the motivation behind it. I think I can even hear it as you speak, that indeed this is something that you're really passionate about. So Miss Ngozi shared something very profound when she began, that really the change that you want to see has to start with you. And this is something that we've spoken of before, right? So tying in that self-awareness. In order for you to change, you really have to know who you are, right? So it just makes sense that if there's one thing you're going to take away today, go get to know yourself, get to know entirely who you are. What are your feelings? What are your thoughts? What are your emotions? How do you apply yourself? What are your patterns, right? And tell your story, share. As you're speaking about that, I was reminded about how we're often taught social media, as we've been speaking, to move in silence, move in silos. But right now, the strategies that we're hearing are create community, collective resilience, these themes that we're speaking about. So I can only imagine for somebody who's sitting back at home and wondering, how am I going to navigate this? But she did reiterate that, shared spaces, have a place where you can freely and safely check in your emotions, because your story really doesn't belong anywhere, everywhere. Right? So have those safety check-ins. So I've been informed that Miss Selma is in the room. Is that correct? Selma, if you can just quickly say hi, just unmute and say hi, and then we can just get into your question. Selma, are you in? All right. Okay, if that is the case, might we quickly move on to our audience Q&A, where I'd just like to remind you to please put in your questions, your comments, even if it's a comment, just leave it down in the chat box, leave it with your name, your country, and we'll get straight to it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just have a look at the questions and invite you in intervals and request that you speak. Just a reminder that unmute, say your name, your country, and then ask your question as you've written it in the chat, right? So I'm going to just call out a few questions if I see any here. Just a shout out for the people that have left their country names, letting us know where they're from. I see a couple of people here. There's Tulani, there's Fidelis, Nomatlubi, of course, our speaker. There's Melvina. Great to see you guys. Abigail, Mamsi, great to see you guys. Emmanuel, you've left a question for Ajaru. If you could kindly just unmute, open up your video, let us see you, and kindly ask your question.
Hello, thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, there you are. You may go ahead.
Thank you. I'm afraid I may not turn on my video. My
Okay,
name is,
right.
I'm Emmanuel Abuwala. I'm a Ugandan who is in Germany. So my question went to Mr. Yunus. I appreciated him for his presentation, but then I wanted to know, in his experience, what is consistency? I mean, is consistency more about discipline or identity, and how could one build that mindset? And then, what small habits helped him remain consistent during seasons when results were a bit slow or discouraging? Thank you.
All right. Mr. Ajari, you can go ahead.
Okay. Hello. Thank you for having me back. Okay. To move straight to the question, I would like to say that. Please, can you see me? Hello. Can you hear me, please?
Hi, Mr. Ajari. We can hear you. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, we can see you as well. Great.
Okay.
Go
Sorry
ahead.
for the background. For me, I would like to say that I think, on my own perspective, consistency is first of all identity before discipline. So discipline, identity is who you are, what you want, and what you want to achieve. And discipline is how you want to achieve that. So I think they always say discipline are those things that you don't want to do, and at the time that you don't want to do them, but they are always necessary for your success. So they always say, no matter how busy you are, if you want to achieve something in future, you need to be disciplined. And being disciplined means that you can use the 2 minute rule. That is, no matter how busy you are, at least every day do that thing for 2 minutes. That is discipline. So, back in my initiative at Communities Against Malaria, there's a time that I almost felt like giving up because there were no resources. We were not having authorization to carry out our initiative. My volunteers too were tired because they didn't have the motivation. There were no tips to motivate them. We needed transport to travel to longer distances to carry out. People were tired, no pay, nothing. So I was left alone. And at that moment in time, I felt like giving up. But I would just sit and ask myself, but who am I? I'll be like, okay, I'm a conqueror. I need to be there. That's discipline too. That's my identity. It means challenges cannot stop me from getting where I want to be. I just be like, these challenges, I need to use them as stepping stones. That is my identity. Now, discipline now at that difficult moment is for me to continue doing what I need to do to get where I want to become, to get where I want to go. That is discipline. So identity is who I am, and discipline is what I want to achieve and how I do it. So I think the little actions that you need to stick to get where you want to be is constantly showing up. You have to you have to be you have to pick one habit, and you have to be too good in that habit. You do it in such a way that you become too good to an extent that people cannot take their eyes off you, that you are so perfect. So that when they talk about it, they'll be like, okay, public speaking. They'll be like, hey, when it comes to public speaking, he is so good at public speaking. Bro, the way he is. So I think that's what I think about that. Thank you very much. I'm back to you.
All right. Thank you so much for that quick roundup. Emmanuel, I hope your question was well answered.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. What's
All right,
thanks a
no
lot.
problem. I think my key takeaway from this is really challenges cannot stop me from where I want to go and where I want to be. And my identity, I am a conqueror. That is all. That is my affirmation for the day. I don't know about you, but if you have anything, please write it down in the comment chat box. Emmanuel, we have another question from you yet again. If you can kindly just unmute and direct it to Nomashubi, just to quickly answer you.
Yeah, thank you once again. My bad, I do not know how to pronounce the name. However, she talked about success, especially communal success. And then my question goes like, what does collective success look like in practice? especially in environments that reward individual achievement, because that is the case currently. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question, Emmanuel. And I understand how this can be a difficult one because, again, I spoke about capitalism. I spoke about financial gain. I think these are the rewards that we're talking about. These are the rewards we're speaking about. Am I able to attain a promotion at my job and make money and drive a fancy car and look like I made it to the people back in my village? This is what individual achievement looks like. But in an environment where I'll make an example from my home country. I work with young people who are fresh from university, no resources. But what they do have are skills. What they do have are public spaces that are available for use for free. So these are a group of filmmakers, not rich people, in the slightest, but they came together and with the different skills they learned from university, editing skills, filming skills, writing, and they wrote powerful documentaries. They created powerful documentaries on social issues affecting Lesotho and went on to winning awards at the film festival. So it's something that looks like that, bringing skills together. What skills do I have? This is, again, when it comes to collective building, you have to build networks and look into your network. What exactly is it that I have? What resources are there available to help me create success for myself and my community? So Lesotho is my home country. This is why I keep referencing Lesotho as an example. Lesotho has the highest suicide rate in the world, but we barely have access to mental health resources. And this is not anything that's preached in our schools. We do not have psychologists in our schools. We do not have enough counselors in our schools. But, we do have professionals that are in existence. And somebody said, I think they might be a therapist. Sorry, I apologize. I do not remember which speaker mentioned this, but they said therapy doesn't have to be expensive. What resources do you have? So for me, success looks like, okay, look into your network that you've built over time through just having conversations with people and being a reciprocal nature. This is one of the things that you need to have as a trait. Be reciprocal. Look into your network. Okay, think. Okay, I'm aware of. Pardon?
30 seconds just to wrap up.
Okay. So I have these people who are in my network. This person is a psychologist, an unemployed psychologist, but they also need to build a portfolio. They need to practice their what do we have? We have young people, young artists who are struggling with their mental health, young filmmakers because they're struggling to access resources. But I have this therapist also. So we have these free spaces come together. Let's look at what exactly are the barriers that are hindering us, that are either social, economic, or psychological, and how can we tackle these together and create resistance as a group? I hope this answers the question. Sorry for going.
All right. Thank you so very much for that, Emmanuel. Thank you also for being such a great participant, for, seeking to ask questions that are relevant to your journey. I'd like to take just a slight detour. I'm going to open up the floor in just 10 seconds. Anyone can unmute and ask any question to any of our speakers in just 10 seconds. If not, we're going to quickly move on to our closing remarks. Anyone? All right, your time is up. Might I kindly ask, at a random, can any of our speakers give our closing remarks for the day? Perhaps maybe a minute each for each and every speaker. We can start from the very top. Let us start with Polycup. Is that all right?
Thank you, Malloy, for giving me this opportunity again. My parting shot is that the community, the peer that our youths do not suffer. When we talk about the issues of mental health, for a very long time, it has been forgotten, it has been left out. But today, we really need to ensure that we put more resources, more emphasis, more collaborative efforts for us to ensure that we have a healthy youth population or community. That is my parting shot. Thanks, and over to you.
Thank you so much for that quick roundup. I hope everyone has got that very clear. Shall we move on to our next speaker? Ms. Ngozi Ibe, any parting shots just in a minute?
Okay. Yes, thank you, Mateo. It was a wonderful session being here, and my parting message is, just like Polycarp said, our mental health is very important, because at the end of the day, everything comes down to our emotional intelligence, how we are able to handle our emotional health. And with that, I think it's about time we begin to build safe spaces around us. A safe space where everybody is encouraged, everybody is pushed to be better, everybody is able to stand for each other, everybody is supported, a community, a safe space where be yourself and give your best and do your best. No matter how much you fall, we'll pick you up, we'll start all over again. So it's about time we start creating safe spaces. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is very encouraging. I think, as we've spoken, the themes of fear, the themes of looking at others and wondering, am I doing enough? Am I really there? You know, these safe spaces can really go a long way. And I hope each and every one of us, as we're going back into our places, we remember to be a little bit more intentional about the spaces that we create and look for outlets where, you know, we can share what is on our minds and not necessarily just keep everything bottled up. You know, let this be a call to action for all of us. With that, can we have Ajayi just to give us your parting shots, please? In just a minute.
Okay. I would like to say that Africa has everything except leadership. So we need people who can help put Africa on a sustainable stage. In the Department of Agriculture, in the Department of Health, we need leaders from respective sectors and corners to help put Africa on a sustainable stage. And by collectively coming together, I think we will help achieve this goal. I would like to thank YALDA for the opportunity. I learned a lot from other change makers across Africa, and I think I was happy to share my own perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajayi, for that one. I think a very stressed point is that let us all be encouraged to step into those positions of leadership. Where you are right now, there's something you can do. He shared his own story, how he started small, how he saw a change, a gap in the society, and he filled it himself. He didn't wait for anybody to say anything to anyone. So let this be an encouragement to each and every one of us to refine our skill sets such that tomorrow, or rather today, be the leaders of today, right? And with that, Noma Hlubi, any parting shots just in a minute?
Yes, thank you, Mateo. So I always want to encourage people to recognize that we do not exist in a vacuum. You know, we have to consider our history, some of the structural inequalities that we're faced with when it comes to creating determination. So determination and maybe even success is not going to look the same for us given our context and our history as it might to somebody else in a different context, in a different continent. So just be kind to yourself and think about what kindness looks like in your context. Again, it looks like building as a group, building as a community, when we move together as young people rather than alone, resistance becomes a shared resource rather than our individual psychological burden. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. I love how each speaker is giving really their perspective on this. Essentially, at the end of the day, what helps me move forward is that we're all really doing life for the first time. But even in that, there are those that have gone before you. And should ever you feel like you are gapping somewhere, these speakers are available, I'd like to believe, on also their social media platforms, wherever it is. Just take a chance maybe to connect with one or two and see where that ends up. And with that, I'd like to give our closing remarks. We urge all participants to follow YALDA on our social media platforms and register for our mailing list for our latest news on African development, employment, and scholarship opportunities, and inspiring African youth stories. Please see all our social media handles displayed right there, and you can go ahead and scan the QR code to download all of these. With that being said, I thank each and every one of you who has taken time out of their busy schedules to attend this session today. It was insightful, it was packed, it was energetic. I loved each and every one of our submissions, and I hope that the conversation does not end here. I thank you, speakers, for your time, for your attention, and I'd like to conclude with this, that YALDA remains committed to supporting young people across Africa with the knowledge, skills, networks, and psychosocial support needed to strengthen resilience, sustain purpose, and navigate personal and professional challenges in a rapidly changing world. We encourage participants to reflect on the insights shared during this session, apply the practical tools discussed, remain connected to supportive communities, and take intentional steps towards building emotionally healthy, purposeful, and impactful lives as well as careers. With that said, may I kindly actually just throw a curveball to our speakers? Maybe have our cameras on just for a quick photo op. If you guys don't mind, I know data, I know bandwidth, but please, 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 just to cherish this moment that we've had here today, can we have our cameras on such that we may have a photo opportunity together? Thank you, Polycap. I see you there. I see Bujani, there you are. I see Ajari, I see Nomatrivi. Oh, thank you so much. Actually, everybody else, let's just have some fun with it. Every speaker, like every participant, every speaker, everybody, let's have our cameras on and let's go on this quick photo op. And then we're gonna quickly pose. I don't know what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Okay. Okay, we're gonna do peace signs. All right. I'm gonna give everybody just 10 more seconds. If you're gonna join in the photo op, switch on your camera. Whether you're participating, whether you're a speaker, anybody really. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's it. So those of us that are here, peace signs. Yay! Yes. Okay. Bidani, did you catch that? Is that all right? Should we go on more? Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you for seeing all of your lovely faces. We really appreciate your time and your efforts, and we will see you in the next webinar.
Bye-bye.
Thanks and bye, everyone. Bye.
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 Bye.